There are 17 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. Okay, well, I wanted to welcome you to the career night. We've got a pretty good evening plan for you to get some information about internships and resources at OU. And we've got 4 alums who were once in your positions who will be sharing their stories this evening. So we're going to get started talking a little bit about internships and what the department offers you as far as opportunities and so forth. So I'm going to share my screen. My name is Rachel Smidra, and I'm in the English department. And Annie Gilson is my co-host tonight, and she will be talking a little bit about the creative writing program and opportunities there as well. Okay, so let me just get this on. Sorry, we're a little discombobulated because of these technical issues. All right, so one of the things that you can do is you can visit our page on the website, and you'll see here that it lists a number of opportunities for you to take a look at. You can look at the internship, student organizations, career resources, and our English alumni mentoring program, and our Navigating the Next Step video. So I just want to talk briefly about these categories a moment. The internships are something that you can look at, now, later, whenever you want to. They give you a list of all the partners that we have have internships with. So these are, some people have done internships recently. Some of these have been on here for a while. They're all internships that provide enough substance and so forth for you to use these as experiences for the 4950 class if you wanted to. But these are also opportunities for you to just take a look at and pursue yourself. So you have a couple different options with internships. You can obviously do one anytime in your career at Oakland University, and you can reach out to Annie or myself and ask us for contact information, and we'll be gladly able to provide that for you. Or you can kind of just click on the websites themselves and explore whether or not there's any current opportunities for you to investigate and pursue. So we're always willing to help out, whether you want to do an internship for a class or whether you want to just pursue something on your own. If you decide to do an internship for a class, which is English 4950, and I think it's a different number, it's CW 4950 for creative writing majors, then that takes on a little bit of a different situation, in that you'll have to meet some requirements as far as length and filling out some paperwork and creating or completing a paper and some possibly some assignments and so forth throughout the semester. So if you are interested in that, you'll definitely want to reach out to one of us to ask some additional questions and find out some deadlines about when you need to have your internship experience organized and ready to start and so forth for semesters. So that you can check in with us at any time. You can do an internship in the summer, you can do it in the fall and the winter. So it's up to you when it fits in your schedule the best. The Navigating the Next Step video, we try to load these after each event, and so you'll be able to see tonight's event up here in a couple of weeks. But you could also go back and take a look at these older videos, and there's just some really good information on these as far as opportunities and skills and different things that you should try to do while you're at Oakland University as an undergraduate to kind of prepare yourself for entering the workforce after you graduate. And we have alums come back every time we do this program. And so you're going to get some valuable insight tonight from our participants, but you could also go back and take a look at these videos as well. So that's a good opportunity for you to just listen and kind of get a breath of experience before you graduate. So, 'cause, 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 ' Okay, so what we're going to do next, I'll just kind of give you a little bit of a brief overview for tonight. So we're going to have Kelly. I hope Kelly can hear us. Can you?
Yes, if you can hear me, I can hear you all just fine. I dialed in via my phone because I'm not sure what's happening with Zoom. So.
Okay, so Kelly Dorner is going to talk for a few minutes. She's the director in a director in the Career and Life Design Center, and I don't think her tech's going to work, so it's mostly her talking. And you can always follow up with her and meet with her and so forth, and go over some of these resources that she mentions tonight. So go ahead, Kelly.
Actually, yeah, Rachel, if you could enable the screen sharing in the Zoom, I can share my screen.
All right, there you go.
All right. Try this again. Okay. So, as Rachel mentioned, my name is Kelly Dorner, and I am with the Career and Life Design Center on campus. And what I'd really like to talk to you about today, give me just one moment here to make sure that I am, stop sharing for just a moment and let me get to the right place. If you excuse me for one moment, I closed out of a lot of different things in hopes of being able to properly connect through my text the proper way. So give me just 1 second to pull all of you up to what I'm attempting to share, and then I'll do that. One moment, please. Okay, hopefully all of you can see my slide deck. Can I get a confirmation? All right, we're making progress here. So sorry for the technical difficulties today. So I want to talk with you a little bit about the Career and Life Design Center, specifically through the lens of how we are a resource to students in the English and creative writing programs. And of course, we assist alumni as well. Our department is what used to be called Career Services, and rest assured that many of the things that were sort of cornerstones of our services when our title was Career Services are still ever present in our Career and Life Design Center. Essentially, we do all of those things and more, if you will. We are all about helping students explore, discover, and connect. And so with that, we are really leaning into, if you think about a English major or a creative major, I'm going to venture a very safe guess here that you all are taking classes as students that you're very passionate about, that you enjoy writing, you're probably really good at writing, and those are wonderful, irreplaceable skills that are applicable in just about any industry and any job that you have. And ultimately, in the Career and Life Design Center, it is really our mission and the purpose of our work to help students really be able to explore what they can do with their degree. Now, Rachel, just a few minutes ago, was talking about some resources that are available on the English department website to help with that. And this is also something that, in conjunction with the wonderful faculty in your program that are putting on today's event, the Career and Life Design Center can assist you with. We have resources that are really intentionally out there to help students explore. We have assessment tools. We work very hard to be able to help students establish industry connections. So for example, if you wanted to know what might be a possibility with your English degree and how you might use it in a particular industry, we have the ability to connect you with industry professionals so that you can have what I'll call an informational interview with them and learn more about their day-to-day and their operation. And so that's certainly something that we do in our Career and Life Design Center. Ways that you can engage with us. One of the things that you can do that I think is a very popular thing, students often come to us hoping for resume advice. In order to get resume advice from us, you never need an appointment. You can drop in as the inspiration strikes you. You can come in with no resume at all, or you can come in with a resume that you've been working on. If you bring in a resume that you've been working on or you've used for previous opportunities, we have some really interesting technology that our students have just been raving about this semester that is new to the suite of services that we have available. We use a software called Big Interview, and Big Interview will allow you to scan in your resume, and it gives you feedback that is aligned with what employers will ultimately think or assess when they see your resume. So it gives you a gold, silver, or bronze rating based upon what employers would how employers would evaluate your resume. What the AI is powered by, what the artificial intelligence is powered by, is the same technology that equips applicant tracking systems, which most companies use in order to collect resumes nowadays. So if you scan your resume in, it looks for some really critically important things. I would venture a guess here and say something that I think is a fairly bold statement, but it's true. As it relates to the resumes for the students that are on this call, your resumes are a work sample for you. So they've got to be well written. They've got to show how you can concisely articulate and create a brand for yourself and be able to execute that brand and articulate that brand in the written word. That's very important for you because as it relates to how employers will view your resumes, they're anticipating that this would be a pretty important document to you, so it should showcase your best writing skills. If you upload your resume into Big Interview, it will take a look at your resume formatting. It will take a look at your resume keywords. It will take a look at whether you have, specific to a job that you are interested in, the right keywords and the right formatting, the right language on the resume. It will look at your resume for proper structure of bullet points. It will give you feedback on spelling and grammar and all sorts of really important things. What I love about the way that my team is doing work this semester is that when you get that resume feedback from the technology, a real live human being sits down next to you in my Career and Life Design Center and walks through that resume feedback with you. So it is a wonderful resource. I hope to see you all in our Career and Life Design Center design studio, which is open between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday. You never need an appointment. In order to meet with the professional staff, we talk with students about mock interview, about job or internship search, and generally career exploration topics. We are absolutely there to help you when you're in your journey and ready for one of these types of conversations. So a lot of times students will drop into the studio and get their resume all set up the way they'd like it first, and then they meet with one of my staff members to talk more about how to customize that resume for a very specific job or internship that they're interested in. Or perhaps it is because they want to do some interview practice, or even talk more about how they might zone in on a particular career that they'd like to explore with their English or creative writing degree. These are all things that my professional staff can and will help students with. And those were some of the things that I wanted to mention to you this evening. Rachel, is there anything else that you prefer I go over today?
No, I think that's a good overview. Did you want to talk a little bit about Handshake?
Absolutely, I can talk about Handshake for sure. I'm going to stop sharing for just one moment because I can pull up Handshake. Just give me 1 second to get to that. Let's see here. I'm going to go into my student view first, and then I will go back to sharing mode.
Maybe we can circle back around, Kelly, when you're ready, and proceed with the employer part.
Well, that's okay. I'm just getting in. I just need a second to be able to pull up my screen. So just give me 1 second. Happy to be able to do that. So. Oops. All right. Okay, so when you log into Handshake, this is what you will see. Handshake is the spot for all employers interested in recruiting Oakland University students to post their job postings. So there are internships in Handshake. There are career full-time related opportunities in Handshake. There are on-campus student employment opportunities in Handshake, all of the above. And so ultimately from this screen here, you can search for jobs, you can see different events, you can research employers, and you can check out resources. One thing that I want to show you by way of resources is if you click on our resource section, and scroll down just a little bit, we have all sorts of resources in here. Specifically, I want to click on resources for the College of Arts and Sciences community. And I'd like to click on and get down to some resume samples in here and show you an example that is appropriate. We've got one for creative writing and one for English writing and rhetoric. For the purpose of today's conversation, I'm going to pull up the resume for English writing and rhetoric. This is intended to serve as a sample. This is intended to offer some inspiration as to the types of things that someone might choose to include on their resume as an English major. So you can see here examples of related coursework. You can see, if I pop back up to the top here, how that degree area is listed. You can see samples of internships that this person had and how they bulleted out their details of experience and so forth. So these things can make really nice inspiration if you're trying to figure out what experiences are best to include on your resume for an English major. So I certainly wanted to be able to share that with you. And then another thing that I wanted to be able to talk with you about is how you can look for jobs in Handshake. The first thing that I will tell you is that this is really for any employer, as I mentioned, that's interested in recruiting Oakland University students. These employers can be from anywhere. What I would imagine is that you may be similar to 99% of other Oakland University students in such a way that your first destination after college could end up being somewhere in the state of Michigan, okay? So we'll operate under that assumption. And when I scroll down here to location, I'm going to make sure that I'm clicking on positions in the Detroit, Michigan area. Right now it has within 50 miles of that. And then what you can see is that there are all sorts of other filters to choose from. You can limit your search to on-site versus remote work. You can say that you want only full-time positions to pull up versus internships or other part-time work, and you can really make this specific to you. So I am going to pretend that my interest is in becoming a technical writer. I am going to type the terminology technical writer into my search option, and we are going to see what comes up. So for right now, the closest thing to that looks like it is a business office support specialist. And you can see that that may or may not be the right thing for you, but you can see what you're able to do here is essentially scroll through this job posting. You can apply right through this job posting. You can research the opportunity further here. You can click to see the profile for the Genesee Intermediate School District, which was the poster of this particular job. And these are all things that you can do right here directly from Handshake. So that is something.
Kelly, this is so great. I do want to be mindful of our guest time. So could you come up, please?
Absolutely.
I believe.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. You know, you should really take some time to go on that website and take a look at all those services. But we're going to hear next from Allie Knox. She's a recruiter at City Year Detroit. So take it away, Allie.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you so much for your time and, sticking with us through some technical things. I'm really here to talk a little bit about kind of some opportunities for you guys, what you can do with your majors once you graduate, and kind of beyond that. So I will keep it short, as I do know that there's some alumni here and we love to hear from alumni, but I'm going to go over a little bit about City Year real quick. So City Year, we are an education-based nonprofit. We're powered by AmeriCorps. I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with AmeriCorps. Essentially, it's a large government-funded organization that provides services and volunteering opportunities to different disparities that you might see in health, education, the environment. Thousands of different programs. We're one of many. What I will say real quick is all of those programs want to hire you. First off the bat, they will hire you, like, no questions asked. Again, I'm one of many. We're City Year. What we do is we place teams of young, diverse individuals into what we call and consider urban, systemically under-resourced public schools, where they work there full-time all year as a tutor, mentor, and role model to kids in grades 3 through 9. So what happens is you join a City Year. We're in 29 cities across America. If you want to go to Miami for a year, you can go to Miami for a year, kind of on us. So you go to the city, you join a team of about 10 or so other core members, so you won't be the only individual in the school. Each one of you will partner with a teacher in that space, and then you're going to go ahead and identify the students who need some extra support, who need to kind of fill in the gaps with and stuff like that. So to identify your students, you're going to look at the makeup of your class. Maybe it's about 30 or so students. You're going to identify the ones who are 2 to 3 grade levels behind in their literacy placement and their math placement. And then we're also going to look at the students who need help with their social emotional development. So throughout the rest of the year, you're going to focus on those students that I just identified by providing them with very individualized instruction and small group support. So essentially what you're going to be doing is tutoring them, throughout the rest of the year. At City Year, we know that if these students who are 2 to 3 grade levels behind in their literacy or math placement get X amount of minutes of extra support throughout the year, they're 2 to 3 times more likely to end up on grade level. And essentially that's, the goal of City Year. Again, we work with grades 3 through 9 because we know that if a 10th grader enters 10th grade on grade level, they're 75% more likely to graduate at all or on time and at all. So we want to catch them before they get there, give them that consistent support from 3rd through 9th grade, and hopefully, send them off 10th grade and they're doing well. I mentioned before that we want to hire you guys and that you guys would truly be great participants for this program. One, I will mention it's paid, you get benefits. It's not a whole bunch of money or anything like that, but it's a really, truly great stepping stone in terms of professional development and personal development. The reason why City Year wants you guys is because you have great analytical and thinking, critical thinking skills. And some of the systems that we work within are unfortunately super dysfunctional. So we need you guys with your great communication skills, your great analytical skills to come in and truly help these students. And again, I mentioned that City Year is not the only AmeriCorps program. There's a lot of different of these kind of service-oriented programs where you receive just as much as you give through the program. It's kind of investing your time into the communities and you grow and you gain again. So what I'm trying to say is that all of these opportunities are out there. They're very, very good for professional development. They're very good for networking, like we mentioned before, building your own connections, building your own network, hopefully finding a full-time career or something like that. essentially City Year, we're kind of like a gap year opportunity. A lot of other of these AmeriCorps opportunities might look something like a gap year. I managed to make it my career, and I stuck around, and I'm a recruiter here. Recruitment takes great communication skills and problem solving, decision making skills, which all of you guys have as well. So that's an example of how you could use, your major, come do this year of service, and end up in a career. Again, there are so many different pathways and opportunities for you guys. I know that we got a really quick showing of Handshake, but like as somebody who is on Handshake trying to recruit you guys, like I know that there's people out there trying to hire you. So I definitely encourage you to check out those areas, those spaces, Handshake, LinkedIn, all of that stuff. And there's going to be other kind of bigger names, maybe like Teach for America, if you've heard of that. Even the Peace Corps, you could do programs like this. And it's really considered like, again, that stepping stone before what's next. Through the program, we do resume days too, interview days as well. Obviously, we're getting to work with students and communities, tutoring on English and stuff like that. If you want to take it a step further, through this program, you can go into looking into creating the curriculum, like the English curriculum, stuff like that. There's also a lot of scholarship opportunities if you're interested in furthering your education, in terms of like maybe education or really anything. I do believe that an English major can take anyone anywhere. I do believe that you guys are very, very like strong thinkers, workers, dedicated to like really understanding whether it's an issue that you're solving or anything like that. So essentially what I'm trying to say is we are here, we are trying to hire you. It just might look a little bit different than what you want to do either for the year or what you might think your path might be. So what I'm trying to say is I encourage you to look for maybe something that you might not think somebody might always do, even if it's just for a year or two, right? There's a lot of opportunities for you guys. And again, we value your knowledge and your education. I spewed a lot at you guys really quickly, a little bit about City or a little bit about how much we love you guys. I am gonna let you guys take it away. I'm covering for my colleague, Robert Humphrey. He's an amazing recruiter at City Year. You will see him on campus at the different career fairs and stuff like that. And I will drop his email in the chat. And I definitely encourage you to reach out to him if you're interested at all in the opportunities we have here or even other sort of AmeriCorps opportunities. So thank you again, everyone, for having me here. And I'm going to drop that in the chat.
Thank you so much, Allie. That was terrific. And again, we're only going to just touch on each of these different things here because we do want to be mindful of people's time. But I know you all are excited to hear from alumni, and we are going to first go to Elizabeth Pellerito, who is the director at the Labor Education Program at UMass Lowell. So hi, Elizabeth, welcome back. Great to see you.
Great to see you. Hi, Annie. Hi, everybody. Really happy to be here and apologize in advance because I came down with a nasty cold or something today, and I will probably stop and sneeze and be sniffly and disgusting. So bear with me. So I graduated in 2004, which is a really long time ago now. And I work in a job that I think seems like it has nothing whatsoever to do with English. And I will talk a little bit about kind of my pathway to getting there. But if you're going to take away, I think one key thing from what I say, it's that you will end up in places that you could never expect or predict right now, because you probably don't even know that they exist right now. And that is sort of, as Allie said, like the power, I think, of the English major is that you are so well prepared in terms of like communication and analysis and writing skills. And that like really does take you anywhere and translate to a million different things. So when I was in college, I did AmeriCorps. We had at the time actually a corps that operated out of Oakland University. It was part-time. We were placed in schools doing similar things to what City Year does. But it also gave us a lot of opportunities to go and do like different nonprofit based things. So your main assignment was in a school, but you were also maybe going and working with people with disabilities, for example, or you were going and doing kind of parks labor. And so that was great because it helped me rule a lot of things out, namely that I was not cut out to be a classroom teacher for like K-12. A lot of you are probably thinking about that as a career option, but it's really hard to know until you've had that experience. And being in the school setting, I think that after a year, 2 years, I was there actually 3 years, I knew for sure that that wasn't for me. And that is really valuable. That's not a waste of your time. That's really, really valuable information that you have. So trying things that might be outside of your comfort zone is kind of another takeaway, I think. I did an internship at the Troy Historical Society. And I never would have I don't know how I ended up doing that. I have no idea. I think Annie probably was like, this would be a great idea. And I was like, okay. But that kind of opened up a whole world to me of sort of like ways to do research and ways to use writing. I was really interested in creative writing. I don't think that we had a separate major for it at the time, or I probably would have been in it. And I just didn't know about all of the possibilities. So that was really helpful. And by the end of that, I had decided that I wanted to go to graduate school, which is a whole other topic and probably a whole other workshop that you all have. And again, so I did a PhD. I have a PhD in literature, and it has nothing to do with what I do in my day job now, sort of. I do constant writing, research, and critical analysis. And I think that's really key, is like thinking about less about kind of like what is the kind of actual day-to-day work that you want to do, and more about like what are the skills that you want to be practicing. Are you someone who wants to be working on your own and writing, and then kind of intersecting with people as you're doing as you're in the editing process, as you're working with clients or whatever? Are you someone who wants to be part of a team and thinking projects? And, one thing about the work world is you're always going to be working on a team. So as much as you hate those group projects, they are also helping you figure out how to do that in the work world. The job that I do right now is basically I run a very small program that's connected to a larger statewide program that sometimes teaches undergraduate classes, sometimes does research, and then all of the time does what we call like extension work. So I teach classes to workers about their rights in the workplace. Sometimes that is working directly with unions. Sometimes it's working directly with community organizations. And if you had told me that I would be doing that, when I was in college, I would have said that you were out of your mind. I was the person who read, do you still do the course memo where everybody talks about the class and like what you're going to read in it and what the assignments are going to be? I don't know if that still exists, but it was a thing when I was there. And I was the person who would go through and be like, oh, there's a major presentation in that class. I'm not going to do it. Literally, that's horrible, right? But I was so afraid of public speaking. And it was a skill that I wish I had pushed myself to develop, but I didn't. And it came slowly over time. And now I do it every single day without really thinking about it. I was talking to my partner the other day and I was like, oh yeah, I have to write this 3-hour symposium. And he was like, what? Who talks for 3 hours? I was like, well, hopefully nobody. But yeah, it sort of comes with time. I think the other thing that really was hard for me when I was a student is feeling like the path that I was like making this really momentous choice that would determine the rest of my life. And that, either I was going to go down, for me, it was sort of like, am I going to be an activist or am I going to be an academic? And I saw those as these like binary points that could not possibly intersect in any way, and that that I had to make a choice, and the choice that I was making right then was going to commit me for the rest of my life. And it was so stressful, it was so fraught, and I just did not know what to do. And looking back, like, I wish that I had someone to tell me that that's really not how it works, that like, one, you're going to find ways to you're going to find your niche, and you're going to find ways to combine things in new and exciting ways that you don't know anything about yet. But two, like, if you really hate something, you're not committed to that for the rest of your life. Like, you can take a job working at Ford or working in marketing and be like, you know what? I am not happy here, and I am going to figure out what the next thing that I want to do is. And maybe that means like doing some networking, and maybe, like taking some like skill building classes or whatever, but you're not locked into that for life. And, I think that your generation maybe realizes that more than mine did. And that has to do with like structural factors relating to healthcare. The fact that you're not locked into a job for life the same way that you were. But like, don't be afraid to do something that you're not sure about, because you can always shift gears. You are not locked into that for life. And I just remember being so scared and so stressed out about that when I was in college, and it really wasn't the case. And so, for me, the kind of pathway that I got into my current job was because I got involved in my graduate union when I was in grad school at Michigan State, became a leader of that, and then kind of use those skills when I went on the job market for academia. There were no jobs. There still are no jobs in academia. And so it was a easy choice for me to say, I'm going to go do some union work for a while and sort of see what comes of that. And, I had a former student say, like, well, don't you feel like you need kind of like intellectual stimulation, and that has to come through your job? I think that's the other thing that I realized is like, if you're relying on your job to do everything for you, and this is where like the labor studies professor comes in, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of misery. Like, you can always be artistic, you can always do intellectual work, you can write a book, and you don't have to do that for your job in order for you to do it at all and for it to be rewarding. So like, you will find your pathway, you will figure it out. Maybe for some of you it will be really smooth, and for others you're going to try things and be like, oh, I didn't like that. And the more I think that you can do that in school as internships or something like City Year, like, those are such great opportunities for you to explore if you're in the position where there's a lot of different pathways where you could see yourself going down. And that was definitely me. So I'll just wrap there and pass it to others if that works, and then we can do Q&A.
Terrific. Oh, thank you so much, Elizabeth. That's great. So much great advice. And Katie, we're going to turn to you now. Katie is the news producer at WJRT. Is that right? WJRT?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So take it away, Katie.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for having me, you guys, and for attending the seminar online. So I work for ABC 12, or otherwise known as WJRT, in Flint. I've been a news producer there since December of 2020, and my road to getting there was not as smooth as I would have hoped. So maybe I'll backtrack by talking about my time at OU. I graduated with a double major in journalism and English in 2020. It was May 2020, so we had the whole drive-through graduation, can't get out of your car sort of thing because of the pandemic. But I had these plans in mind. I didn't really know what I was going to do. Being a double major, I've always, kind of like what Elizabeth was saying, I've always been going back and forth and thinking that I needed to have things figured out right away. That I needed to know, with two majors, which one do you want to do for the rest of your life? So I had at that point picked that journalism was going to be the avenue. And with my English degree, of course, informing that, because we have so many valuable skills that we learn as English majors. So I graduated in May of 2020, and then I was looking for a job for a little while. I was submitting my resume everywhere. I was on Handshake, I was on LinkedIn. I was looking for the right thing for me. I was being ghosted by different places where I submit the application, I never hear back. I have an interview and I never hear back. And I think that was in part because of the pandemic, but also workplace, the culture has changed a little bit because so many places are urgently looking for somebody. They're kind of sorting through what they have and, okay, here's somebody. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to let the other people know what's going on because we haven't really communicated with each other. So I was on unemployment during the pandemic, and I got my job interview in what was it? I think it was mid-November of 2020. And then I started as a producer in December. And I'm still there right now. I do enjoy it a whole lot. I'll break down kind of what I do on the day-to-day too, because producers is such like a big word, but I do a whole bunch of different things. So my show is the 6 p.m. news show on Mondays through Fridays. And of course, I'm filling in other spots too when people take the day off. Sometimes I'm doing the 11 p.m. show as well. So when you produce a news show, what you do is, I mean, I think in short, the basic would be what the anchor is reading on the teleprompter. I've written most of that. I go into the show. We have a meeting at the beginning of the day where we decide what our reporter stories are going to be. And then I decide how they're going to run, where they're going to run, how much time they're going to get. And I'm monitoring my email through the day. I'm monitoring press releases that are coming in, social media, different tips we get, whether it be over the phone or through our news tips. And I'm putting together the best show that I can by the time 6 o'clock rolls around. So we have a whole big team that makes that happen, which stresses the importance of teamwork, right? So I'm writing what the anchors read. I'm also setting up the banners that you read at the bottom of your screen. We call those our lower thirds. And I'm picking out sound bites for stories. I'm picking out, what's the best way that we can showcase this. And I think that my English degree really put me at an advantageous spot with that, because all the way up until we just hired somebody like a month or so ago, I was the only English major there. And I think that our analysis skills help us fine tune into understanding meaning, and we can do it very quickly as well. I can look at a press release and I can figure out what they're trying to say. And I think because we've read so much, and because we have such an expansive vocabulary, because we are able to pull these literary devices out of text and things in that realm, we're able to understand things and be able to tell stories better. And I think, for me, it was deciding, where am I going with what I'm saying? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, for me, I always saw journalism as the one thing that I was going to do. And English very quickly became my love, my passion. And I realized really early on in my career at WJRT that I felt like part of me was still missing. Yes, I'm informed by my English major past, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to grad school. So here I am in grad school. I started that in fall of 2021. I work full time, and then I go to one class a semester. So I'm taking it half time. I'm about halfway through the program. And I think for me, understanding that I wanted to go back to school, that, that English literature is something that I want to keep doing. It was for me about knowing that it's okay to not be sure what you want to do. It's okay, to maybe decide that one avenue isn't quite suited for you, and now I'm going to go do something else. I'm not sure, I love journalism. I love English. I think I'm still going to pursue journalism in the future, but I'm also going to be teaching on the side. I'm not sure where it's going to be, and it's okay that I don't know these answers right now. I'm a little bit, since I graduated in 2020, I'm still trying to get my footing on things, but it's been a nice journey, and I enjoy what I do every day. And I love being able to go to class and being able to interact with other students about literature and to work collaboratively with other people at my job. It's a valuable skill that we're able to do through having discussions every single class period. It's just, I don't know. I think I'm at a place where I kind of know what I want to do, but it might change in the future, and that's okay. And I'll end it with that.
Okay, Katie, that was great. Thank you so much. And I hope that people are hearing just how helpful it is to be English and creative writing majors, because it really opens you to the world. It helps you to understand stories and understand the complexity of our world, right? I mean, we live in such a complicated world. And I want to now turn to Dean Masters, who is a librarian at Oakland University.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining and thank you for having me. So yeah, my name is Dean, and I have not gone very far from Oakland University since graduating. I'm actually working at Kresge Library. So many of you are probably familiar with the library. I have now been there for 10 years. And I originally graduated from OU. So my pathway has been, as it is for so many English majors, all over the place. But I originally I graduated high school in 2004, and I took 3 years off where I just traveled and lived in other places and kind of tried to enjoy that time. And then I had the panic moment of, oh gosh, I have to go back to college and get serious about things. So I ended up finishing my English degree, and let's see, it was 2012, and was at the time working at a public library. I'd been working at different public libraries since my senior year of high school, so for quite a while at that point. And about a year after I graduated with my English degree, I saw the job posting for a position at Kresge Library at OU. My boss was the one that actually notified me of the posting, and she was like, "Didn't you graduate from OU?" And I was like, "That would be a dream job," because how much time I spent in the library at OU, and already having been in libraries for as long as I had. So I applied for it thinking like chances are probably pretty low. But I think that it helped a little bit that I was an OU grad, that I was already really familiar with campus, and that I knew quite a lot about OU. So yeah, that's what started me. Other than a leave of absence that was for the better part of a year, I've been there since 2013. And so I'm also here to represent kind of libraries as a pathway for English majors, because um, almost all of you will have spent some time in libraries. Most English majors will have some kind of special connection to libraries, and a lot of you may have considered working in them in the past. So I can answer any questions you have about like what sorts of jobs there are and what the salaries are, and what it takes to get those jobs, what sort of education you need. I'm going to give a brief overview of just a couple of those things. But if you have more specific questions, you can always follow up with me. One of the more, I'll also address some of the the things that I hear commonly, objections to working in libraries or fears that people have about taking that as a career path. I think if you're an English major, you're already on the right trajectory of being experimental and trying things that might not be on the surface the most lucrative or, financially, successful careers, and libraries can be surprisingly so. Let's see what I do in a typical day. So my title is Access Services Assistant. Access Services is a part of the library, at least at OU's library, that includes things like circulation, so checking in and out materials. We handle interlibrary loans, so bringing in materials from all over the world. Those are both physical and digital. We maintain the stacks of the whole library, so the physical collections, moving them around, shifting them when we need to create new seating and things like that. And we also have the course reserves program, which is a relationship between the library and faculty to make textbooks and materials like that available. So my area handles all those sorts of things. My specific role is to hire, train, and schedule all of the student assistants who work at the library. So when you walk into the library, the first desk you see on the left, there's usually students sitting there waiting to greet you, answer questions, and all of that. So my job is basically to train them, make sure that they're always up to date on our policies and procedures, and also be a jack of all trades in our department. So help out in any other area where people need assistance, whether that be packaging up interlibrary loans, taking phone calls and answering, questions about whether we have something in our catalog, responding to emails, booking room reservations, just all sorts of things throughout the day. And one of the things that's kind of fun about that job is the variety of things that will come up throughout the day. So an English degree has an obvious connection to libraries, I think. When you tell people you have an English degree, I think that's one of those jobs that they kind of assume that you would be well fitted for, in addition to teaching English and some of those other things. So it always felt right when I was getting my English degree that I had already worked in public libraries and had an interest in that. That said, I will say there's obviously been a shift in the last couple of decades towards people with IT degrees. Libraries have become more of areas where you can get tech help and that sort of thing. But my argument is still that English majors, because of their kind of the fact that you haven't over specialized in any one particular subject, you are in a great position to provide information literacy. And that's what libraries are. They're not just houses of books. They're not just IT centers. They are places that teach people how to access the resources they need, whether that be for research, like in a university library, or for their entertainment, like getting movies from a public library, right? So there's definitely a really strong place in communities for libraries. There's a strong place for them in universities, and there's a strong argument for their continued existence. The kind of education that you need, so as I said, you're already off to a good start. If you have an English degree, the typical thing people think of in this field is the MLIS degree, the Masters of Library and Information Science. There are two places in the state of Michigan that offer those. That's University of Michigan or Wayne State. Wayne State tends to be the more popular choice with the people that I've worked with. Generally, the division, as it was explained to me when I was younger, was Wayne State was for people who wanted to work out on the floor, working reference, answering questions. U of M was more for people who were looking for the kind of upper management, or you wanted to be a director or a dean of libraries. That would be the more appropriate choice, although I don't know that that distinction really holds. But lots and lots of colleagues have gone to Wayne and been happy with that program. It is fully online. That said, I have not gotten an MLIS degree. Like I said, I've worked in libraries at this point for so long, and there are certain areas in libraries where you do not need an MLIS degree. So typically that degree is required to be an actual librarian with a capital L. Those who work in libraries, librarian specifically designates those who have that master's degree. And at least at the university level, they usually also have a second master's degree. So it is a lot of education. It is a lot of work. But I am also here representing the library positions that don't require those additional master's degrees. If that seems daunting to you, like 2 extra master's degrees for this, field of work. So I got my English degree. I have picked up additional degrees since then, because being an OU employee, I'm still here and I wanted to continue taking classes, but that was not necessary. In fact, the job that I hired into required only a high school degree. But sometimes, depending on what library you hire into, salaries will be negotiated based on whether you have your 4-year degree and so on. One of the big decisions you would have to make if you're interested in libraries is whether you want to work at a university library or a public library. And these are the 2 big divisions. The main differences between them, I would say, are 3 things. 1, the source of funding. So of course, at the university libraries, those are funded by tuition and state support. And the public libraries are funded by local property taxes. And there's often a smaller, more community-driven feel to the public libraries, which you're probably familiar with. The clientele is, of course, different too. You're going to get a lot more families and locals at the public library, whereas the university, you're going to have undergraduate and graduate students and faculty and staff with some guests. And then, of course, the duties between working in the public libraries and university libraries are very different. Generally, in public libraries, you'll have more roles combined into one. So you'll be doing processing, technical work, interlibrary loans, circulation, shelving, reference work. All kinds of things will fit into one role. Whereas at the university level, it tends to be the case that people are more specialized in each individual thing that they do. Lots and lots of different positions within the library. There are things that range as far from working at a front desk where you're answering questions and checking things out, to working as an archivist. So maintaining the special collections in a university library and seeing the magic that happens when you show someone a 500-year-old book for the first time, that sort of connection that you can have. So I mentioned, just to wrap up, I mentioned that there's some common objections to working in libraries. One of those is there's no jobs in Michigan. I can't speak to this. I think from my perspective, I've seen colleagues who have been able to get jobs pretty quickly in the library field. It may depend specifically on what you want to do. If you really have your heart set on being an archivist rather than just working in libraries in general, that might be trickier, for instance. So if you're willing to sort of get your foot into the library world, get some experience, and then shift your job, it's going to be more lateral shifting generally, by the way. This is not the sort of like climb the financial ladder sort of job. But the exciting thing is you can get one job in the library world, and then you can kind of find what your niche is and what most interests you. And then the other thing is, are libraries still relevant? Will I be employed in 10 years if I take a library job? And again, I've talked about this a little bit already. We've already seen how libraries have shifted and stayed on their toes with the advent of technology, right? Libraries happily introduced computers when computers became a thing. They happily introduced subscriptions and ebook catalogs as digital resources have become available. As I've said, a lot of libraries have almost become like IT hubs, and there are libraries now in the world that don't have a single book in them. So if you're the kind of person who wants to experiment and you're happy sort of in this world that is thinking on its toes and rethinking constantly ways to continue to be relevant to its community or to its university, it's a fun place to be. It's exciting to see how these changes are happening, and you can be a part of that. So
thank you so much, Dean. It's so interesting, and it's a great place to be for people who are hungry to learn about the world, as of course you are. And now I'm turning to Brittany Deisberg, who is the executive assistant to the vice president of educational programming at the Detroit Zoo. So welcome, Brittany.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me, Annie, and for everyone coming. I think kind of a common thread is what everyone else has been talking about, is just my journey through school, and all my jobs has kind of been bouncing all over the place. I graduated high school in 2010, and I originally went off to Grand Valley, and I was pre-med. And I was there for 3 years, and then I had to come home to be a caregiver for my mom. And when I came home, I was just at like OCC for one semester because I moved in the middle of the year and I was trying to figure everything out. I ended up doing a few semesters at Baker, which was not the greatest choice for me, but I was continuing medicine there. And then I switched to OU in, I think, 2014. And then a bunch of my credits, almost all of my medical credits, did not transfer. So then I had to decide if I wanted to redo 4 years of medical courses or if I wanted to switch. So I, at that time, decided I could not do OrgoChem and all of those things all over. And I had always loved and had a passion for reading and writing and teaching. So I ended up dual enrolling. I did so I have my degrees from the creative writing program in fiction and poetry. I did all the classes and the capstones for both, but I was also a double major in cultural anthropology. My focus was, or my major was archaeology, with a focus in prehistoric Native American tribes and bands in like the Great Lakes region. And I also had a minor in geographic information systems. And then I graduated in 2016 from OU with those degrees. When I was going through school, I had talked with Annie and some of the other professors, and there was an internship through OU to the zoo for all of the writing majors. And so I ended up doing that. And I had been working all throughout school as well. So I have a bunch of different careers, different jobs on my resume that kind of seem like they're all over the place, but kind of what everyone else has touched on is that just all of the critical thinking and the analytical skills and everything that we get through all of the like literature courses and the writing courses, all of that is very applicable everywhere. So my jobs seem very like stinted and kind of random, but there's that common thread throughout everything that I kind of was able to use those skills and to tie everything into those jobs. And I was able to kind of increase and better like the position I was in with those skills. So then when I was doing my internship at the zoo, the internship ended, and Diane, who is now my boss, the VP of Educational Programming, she hired me on after the internship ended, but I was working on a grant. The zoo, if you don't know, is a nonprofit. And so I was working on a grant. Then the grant money ran out, and she was trying to hire me on full time, but because it's a nonprofit, you have to go through like 5 different boards, and there's a very long process to having a position added. By the time one had come on, I had a different job. I was working at a company called Advomass. We were helping people. It was actually in the medical realm, which was kind of nice to like go back to that, but I still was able to use all of those skills that I had gained from OU and the like just the college in general to tie into those skills and to do better in multiple. I kept getting promoted to different positions within that company, and I kept taking on more and more and more, which of course came with a higher pay, which was nice. And then in the end of 2019, in November, some of my family, my brother and his wife and some of her family, we decided to buy a bakery. And I had kind of what some of the other people had mentioned was that scary moment of taking on, did I want to take a chance on that other passion of baking that I had and leave a job that I liked? And I ended up taking the risk. And so we took over the bakery November 1st of 2019, just months before the world shut down. But because we not only baked, we also made food items and bread, and we brought in milk from Guernsey, we were classified by taxes as a grocery store. So we were able to stay open, and we made some sort of profit throughout all of it, which was incredible. But most of our employees left. So I was, working like 100 hours a week for years. And eventually I decided that I needed to leave his last year. And then coincidentally, I ran into Annie and her husband at a farmer's market. And she's really good friends with my boss. And that was just funny because then we were talking, and then she was talking to Diane. And then I had been searching for a job. And so that kind of came up, which is funny just how those like networking and all the happenstance comes together sometimes in the universe, which is just strange and wonderful. And so I've been back at the zoo. My position before, I was actively teaching. So we would bring in like field trips, and we would write the lesson plans, and we would align it to all of the state and federal curriculum for all the class guidelines. And then we could align it with what the teachers, we did we have TOTS programs, but for the schools, it was K through 12. And then we had some college classes come in as well. And then, like I said, we had TOTS programs and we ran summer camps. So it was very informal teaching, but still utilizing all of those like English and language skills that we learned at the college. And then kind of also all the science skills you have and everything else that you kind of build. And also just learn on the job. And you would like write all those lesson plans and teach. In my position now, I'm more behind the scenes, kind of all of the logistical things. And so I help all of the educators run all of the programs on the back end, which is another interesting like aspect of it if you wanted more like to be in education, but more on like the office side or like the behind the scenes stuff. You know, speaking with all the teachers, we have a lot of grant programs and donation programs where we bring in schools on like our dime or through donations, like from Title I's that couldn't afford to come. We have district partnerships with one of them is DPSED. So every first grader in Detroit Public Schools comes and sees us, and we like write a lesson plan directly for them. And it was just really interesting when I was thinking about doing this, thinking back on all of the past jobs and internships and just like volunteer work that I've done on all of the different aspects of like all of the different nuances of trying to help people, which I think is kind of why I went into my other degree in anthropology, is just kind of wanting that human connection and figuring out how to help people further. And it's just incredible to think about all of, you know, the different tie-ins from all of what all your schooling and past jobs that can kind of lead in to things you never really thought you would do, but a job that ends up working out well. I think that's kind of all I have, but I'll stick around for the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Brittany. That's terrific. And I hope folks are hearing some of these repeated themes and some of these patterns. There's a lot to do with networking. Internships often help you to sort out what you want and what you don't want, but it's so important to realize that you're not locked in and that you can do all sorts of lateral moves, both within companies and, you know, company hopping, if you, and institution hopping. I think one of the really important things to remember is that English and creative writing majors don't have a prescribed job. Like an engineering student goes and becomes an engineer, a nursing student goes and becomes a nurse. But with creative writing and English, you go and you can do a ton of things. So please do take a look at the resumes that our alumni are so graciously willing to share with you, because that will give you a real snapshot of how people, you know, kind of go from a stepping stone from one job to another, and sometimes a surprise stepping stone. So I'm going to open things up now to a Q&A. Anybody have questions? You can either put them in the chat, or you can just turn on your screen, raise your hand, whatever you want to do. Please, Emma.
Just really quickly, can anybody like hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess what I just want to ask is like, well, okay, so don't get me wrong, like say this entire session has been really, really, really helpful, and so thank you so much. But I just like, I guess maybe I also just want a little bit of reassurance too. It's just like, because my thing is just like, for context, I did start college during COVID, so I wasn't really able to start like say participating like say on campus stuff until like say my sophomore year and all that. And like I've obviously did my best to like say try to participate, like say the participant clubs and all that. But I also meant like say I did start like working later, and like a lot of personal stuff happened during college, and just like say, so I just wanted curious because like say I graduate this April, and I just still feel like I haven't like say found like say my goal is to get an internship. I just feel like I really haven't found like an internship yet. But since I'm a senior, I just feel like I'm just so far behind, and I'm dealing with like those college regrets. Like say, how do I just kind of like know that like say I guess like I'm not screwed and it's not the end of the world? Like say just kind of like what do I do? Is it like am I too late to like say find an internship, like stuff like that?
Oh, you're not too late. So Emma, so for sure, contact me, because we will set up a Zoom meeting and talk about this. But I want you to know that everyone has been feeling like they are in chaotic times since COVID, and folks have already talked about being unemployed.
Yeah.
So anybody want to speak to Emma's question? Katie, you want to take a pinch hit?
Yeah, I was gonna do the hand raise thing, but I couldn't find the button. But yeah, oh my gosh, Emma, when you were talking, I just felt I felt such a sense of familiarity because for me, I was in the middle of my last semester when COVID hit, and all of a sudden, I can't come back to campus. I worked on campus, and we were trying to navigate doing that online. I worked at the Oakland Post and at the Writing Center. So it's okay if you're still trying to get an internship. Like Annie said, the department can hook you up for sure. But it's for me at the beginning of my job search journey, it was just constant like imposter syndrome, right? Me thinking I got this degree, like am I not getting a job because I'm not good enough to keep going? There were a lot of doubts, and I think that that's just part of the process for a lot of us too, because we have these thoughts in our head that that maybe we don't have what it takes to do things. But you absolutely do have what it takes, and you said that you're a senior, so you've worked so hard to get where you are right now, and it's going to be a great journey for you once you get toward graduation, once you get an internship. And if you get an internship and you decide that it's not quite what you want to do, that's okay too. You can always take another one, or if you want to do start job search and go different avenues there, that's fine too. But I mean, my big thing to say is it's okay, and we've all been there before, and it's okay to not know.
Yeah,
Thank you so
Echo
much.
that. Yeah.
Everyone is nodding. Let's go to Elizabeth. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, Brittany said something about like learning on the job, and there's so much that you learn on any job, and I think that imposter syndrome keeps people, especially women and non-binary people from, like, there's studies that say, they don't necessarily like make them more ambitious. They look at something and say like, oh, I don't meet 100% of these requirements, and so I shouldn't even apply for it. And that's not true. Like, there is a certain expectation that you do a lot of learning on the job. I think employers right now know that COVID, like the kind of COVID generation that came up during the past 4 years, has just had a really, really different college experience. And so they're like expecting that, and they're ready. And from a labor perspective, like, it is a really good time to be looking for a job. There are jobs available. It is a worker's market. And so don't freak out. There's no such thing as like being behind. You will find something and you will create your path. And it sounds like Annie's ready to jump in with figuring out an internship. So yeah, please don't freak out. It's tempting to freak out. Don't do it.
Thank you.
I know, it's so tempting. Go ahead, Dean.
My gosh, Elizabeth, Katie have already said such brilliant things. I would only maybe add the note of trying to remember self-care is important along the journey. Taking those moments to sit back and go, it's okay. I don't have to have it all figured out right now. I mean, that has been so important to me, especially when you're trying something that is a little bit off the beaten path. And it's also, I know it can be difficult to explain to other people what it is you're trying to do. How many times I've had family members or friends say, like, what exactly is your end goal? Like, what are you going to be a teacher? Are you going to be a librarian? What is it that you're going to do with this English degree? And it can make you feel the pressure to, like, I need to have an answer now. And how many times have I heard people say the first year out of college, whatever you do is not what you're going to be doing the rest of your life, almost every single time, right? It's you have the time to figure these things out. But as you're doing that, just, my personal input here is remember to, find a quiet place where you can, just remember not everything has to be figured out in this exact moment.
God,
Thank
that's
you.
so important to take care of yourself. Yeah, Brittany, did you have anything to add? I know that's hard coming in after everyone else.
I mean, for the most part, they kind of got it all. I was just, I think it's important to remember that almost everyone graduating is kind of terrified about what they're going into. And I mean, I'm sure, I don't want to speak for everyone else who's talked, but I'm sure all of us were, I know I was. And I mean, it kind of from every switch that I made also was slightly terrifying, especially leaving like a corporate job where I kept advancing that I really liked to take a risk on something else like the bakery with my family. Like all of that is very terrifying. And I mean, you end up finding new things and new things you enjoy, or you find out that you don't like it from the risk, and then you just go back and you can find something else. And like what Elizabeth said, I mean, right now, companies are trying to hire people. So, I mean, you're going to be finding jobs, maybe not exactly what you thought of, you were going to be getting a job in 2 years ago or 4 years ago, but you'll be able to find something and kind of figure out what you like and what you don't like and be able to move forward from there.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. And so this is just to remind you to keep your mind open, because you don't know exactly what is going to fit you or what's going to make you feel fulfilled until you've tried it on. So again, there's lots of internships that we can work on getting for all of you. And please do write me and set up a meeting with me. I can do Zoom. I'm also on campus, but that's your first step. And please also do reach out to Kelly, because you also need to go to the I'm sorry, it's got a new term now, the Career Center and Life Learning.
Life design.
Really, Career and Life Design Center, because it leans into exactly what every single one of your alumni said. Every single one of them. You do not have to have it all figured out. That's what we are there to help you explore.
Right. And it's so, I mean, it's just such a great resource. The folks at the Career Center are so generous. They're really patient. They don't expect you to know how to do anything. They're going to sit down and work with you. This is one of the best things that our university offers, because it's a lifelong resource for you. You can come back. I've had a number of folks who've participated in Career Nights who said, yeah, I decided I wanted to make a switch. I went back to Handshake. I went back to the Career Center. They helped me find a whole new job that I love. So nothing is set in stone. You're not going to be an engineer and you're not going to be a nurse. That's a big surprise, right? But you can be just about anything else. So you just have to kind of be willing to explore, look at the resumes, look at and talk to people, ask questions, because you know what? That is what networking is. You are networking right now. It's not that hard. I mean, it's a little scary to talk to people you don't know, but you can do it. You've been doing it. Emma just did it. Anybody else have more questions? Please, Madeline.
Hi. Your guys' stories and advice is very inspiring. So I have a question about like post-graduation, like working in multiple positions throughout a career that are still within like one or two industries. So I know for sure that I want to work in the animation industry. So I'm interested in like storyboarding, illustration, voice acting, freelance work, music. So what advice do you have for like just like going through like different jobs post graduation, different positions?
Go ahead, Elizabeth. You look like you're thinking.
I am thinking. I think if you know what you want to do, then that makes the opportunities for networking even more important. And like not being afraid, I would say, to like kind of cold call folks and reach out and be like, hey, can I talk to you about what like what your day-to-day looks like, especially if you are thinking that you want to go the freelance route, like really having some conversations with folks about, like how do you line up your gigs, and how do you get insurance? Like, how do you do these really practical adulting tasks that in a more traditional job you don't have to worry as much about? Like, you have to figure out how to sign up for your benefits and all of that stuff. But it becomes kind of real in a different way if you're going to be a freelancer. And so I think, yeah, like just having some conversations, even if you think like, oh, I'm gonna like email this person from this company, they're never gonna answer me back. They might not, they might be really busy, but they seriously, like, I think people get really excited to hear that there are folks who kind of like, I want to be you when I grow up. How do I do that? And then of course, I mean, if there are other folks who, like asking your professors if you have courses that are relevant, like whether it's like design courses or whatever, like, do you have any alums that I could talk to who are in the field? And just sort of like seeing where that conversation goes, seeing where they ended up, and like, oh, do you know of anything kind of in the field, or do you know of any good first steps for me, is sort of my initial thoughts.
Terrific. And that's so important, because in fact, we do have a mentoring program to help connect you with these folks who are out there doing some of the same things. Go ahead, Brittany.
I was just thinking too, through both of the questions, when I was at OU and I was doing my anthro degree, I was thinking for a while of going to grad school for anthropology and archaeology. And one thing that my professor said all the time, especially because I did a bunch of like postering at different conferences and stuff, and he was always like, you need to have your elevator pitch. And I hated when he would tell me that, because I hated it. I hated thinking about it. I hated the thought of trying to sum up like my worth in like 20 seconds. But I think it is very helpful and very important to think about, and taking the skills and everything that you're really good at, that you're passionate about, that you want to learn more about, and kind of being able to condense that into a few sentences to be able to tell that during your interviews. Or like Elizabeth said, if you reach out to someone and, in the field you want to be in, and are asking them about how they got there, what their day-to-day is like, or things like that, just being able to say, I really want to do voiceover, and I've done this in like the music school, or, whatever whatever's applicable to that. I think it's really important to make sure you kind of have that core of what you are good at and you like, and you want to continue to do moving forward.
Yeah, and practice it when you're driving in the car, practice it when you're walking in the woods, whenever,
All the
for
time.
sure. Yeah. Good. Anybody else have questions? We do need to wrap up. Oh, Dean, go ahead, please.
Oh, I just wanted to add to that, to build off of something Elizabeth said. This wasn't directly applicable to my daily job, but in doing research, I think the point of contacting people directly, the term Elizabeth used was cold calls. For me, it's just like sending out emails, particularly to people that you admire already in the industry, right? So if there's an animator that you like, especially if they're not somebody that's like way up there at the top making the millions, but there's somebody that's local that you're really into, like having direct communication with them. Networking is a word that I've always hated, and the elevator pit, like there's so much that feels inhuman about that. But the idea that you can just send out emails to people, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, but it can mean a whole lot when you do actually make that connection, if you get a response and you develop that over time. So just like sending out emails to some of the local writers that I really admired, or whether they be at other universities or, published writers, and just starting out by saying, I really appreciate your work, and da-da-da. Soon enough, I had this network, whether I liked the word networking or not. And now there's a really wonderful group of people who work in the field that I, am most interested in, that have great advice. So I just wanted to emphasize the point of make sure to write to your heroes, or write to those people that are doing what you want to do, and make those connections.
Yes, reach out, because they might, as Elizabeth said, right, not write back, but they also might write back, and then suddenly you've got a new contact. And you also want to talk about this with your schoolmates, talk about your interests and your love with your teachers, all of because you don't know who knows somebody. And that's what networking is. It's often not going to be the person you're talking to is going to hook you up. It's going to be the person that person knows. And we are a sociable species. We want to help each other. It makes us feel like, oh, I helped them. Like whenever somebody says, oh, that helped me getting an internship all this year, I just like light up. I live for that. So we actually get off on helping you guys. So do reach out. Anybody else have questions? All right. Thank you all so much for participating in this terrific event, and apologies again for some of our technical difficulties, but we're old and that's the way it goes. Love you all. Please reach out if you have, if you'd like a copy of the alumni resumes, and also the this will be processed and then eventually will be available, but it's going to probably be about a month lag time before the recording of tonight's event will be available. But we're going to eventually have it for you all. All right. Thank you all. Great to see all you
Good luck,
all.
everyone.